Married people who were cheated on. How did you find out? What did you do? I was with a woman for 7 years, married, had a daughter with her. It was our kid's birthday and she received a phone call from someone. She played it off as the wrong number. 20 minutes later she informs me that she's having an emotional affair. I ask, like on the internet? And she replies no. In person. I respond, have you slept with them? She said, yes. Turns out the phone call was the guy's wife, telling her she is dropping him off at our place and she'd better tell me. Turns out they had been having an affair for 6 months. She basically had no leg to stand on. Claimed abuse. Tried to sell everything in the home after I was ejected. Army's cool off plan. After the dust cleared I dropped a bunch of weight. Started traveling the world. Took my daughter to places that I never imagined. She hates me for it. She's still with him and they both are hateful and miserable. I thought my life was over then. Turns out it had just begun. Knew for sure my ex-wife was cheating on me when she was out of state taking care of her sick father, who really was sick. Mind you, and her aunt called me looking for her after her dad collapsed onto the floor for half a day so my ex could go out and her new BF in a motel 2 hours away. My ex-wife really wanted to have a baby. She was in her mid-30s so kind of running out of time. We tried and it wasn't happening as fast as she wanted. After a month plus of no sex, which should have been a big red flag. In retrospect, she comes home one day, takes all her, and just leaves. Only once she was gone did she eventually admit to me that she went and got herself pregnant by another man. Got divorced. By the way, the other guy was someone she had not apparently known long or well. And he wanted nothing to do with the kid. So she is raising it now as a single mother. She got involved with another man. I knew something was wrong because things didn't feel right for weeks. Getting her to tell me the truth was like pulling teeth every step of the way. She asked for a divorce. I gave it to her willingly. Took standard advice. Forgot about Facebook. Hit the gym. Hired a lawyer. And made entirely new friends in my late 20s. Life is so much better now than I thought it would be even when I was married. She said she had to go down to visit her mom. She never came back. Turns out she didn't go visit her mom. It's all good now though. I'm way happier since that all happened. He came home one evening after 16 years of marriage. Said we're in trouble. I asked if he lost his job. Forgot to pay the mortgage, etc. He said he had a 5-year-old and another one on the way. We had a 15 and 13-year-old. There was momentary confusion. Then the light bulb came on. I went to see a divorce attorney a few days later. She went with him on business trips. Was in our house when I was at work and the kids were at school. I moved out 15 days after finding out all of this information. This was 17 years ago. She got extremely sloppy and left evidence. So I snooped through her purse and her car and found lots more. We're now divorced and she's unhappily married to the guy with whom she was cheating. I kinda knew something was going on and then my close friends had a pseudo intervention to let me know I was in a broken relationship. I went and found the guy and talked to him for confirmation. After that I left and kinda disappeared for a little over a year. I don't think I even talked with anyone over that period of time. I just spent a lot of time reflecting on who I became through that relationship and then spent a great deal more re-establishing some sense of self-worth. I had no clue until it was blatantly obvious. We have 2 kids over 3 and 2 at the time. They are 8 and 7 now. She started going on girls' night out a lot. Like 1-2 times a week. Finally caught her lying when she was out shopping really late and I did find my iPhone and saw she was at some house when she told me she was at Target. Confronted her. We cried and talked all night. Decided to fix it. 1 week later I came home and caught her with a dude in our bed, with 2 kids napping in the next room. So yeah. Done with that. I woke up to her phone going off at around 6 AM. They were good morning. I miss you. Ect. Messages from another guy she was talking to. I woke her up, kicked her out and promptly moved to Indianapolis with one of my best friends. I still get sad sometimes because I thought we really loved each other. But the cookie has crumbled. Sorry about having to move to Indiana. No one should have to go through that. I had suspicions for a few months. She had recently been going on a lot of business trips. After she asked me to move out. Roughly 2 months after. Someone made a fake FB profile and informed me that she had been having an affair with a co-worker for 4 years. It was well known. At her company. I must have looked like a fool for all the times I hung out with her and her co-workers. You don't look like a fool. She looks like a lying biatch. I know. Easier to say than to believe. But it's true. I caught her heavily flirting with people at parties a few times. Then I got deployed and returned. She shows up late for my unit's arrival after drinking a 6-pack of beer. She left me and my son soon after to do drugs and live with the guy I can only assume she was sleeping with. Her best friend at the time told me she cheated on me. We divorced and I remarried later to a great person. I also worked really hard and made a nice career in cybersecurity. Edit. I meant she left my son and I. He is doing well and thanks for caring. I have had full custody since we split and she's not a big part of his life. Sigh for me, my ex-wife was very covert about it. She had spent years sneaking around behind her parents with me when we first met. Regardless, I trusted her. She was my wife and it's not much of a marriage without trust. She made one fatal mistake though. She told her little sister about it. Problem for her is her little sister liked me and hated her, not that she realized knew her sister hated her. So my little spy came and told me everything. Tossed her out of the house and left her. A real tie way to end a 10-year marriage. Saw her Facebook messages to him where they were planning a mountain trip. We were separated trying to work on rebuilding our marriage. Don't ever do that, BTW. Just as bad as the affair was the two of them taking my son to see a movie together. I hired a lawyer. Filed for divorce and ended up taking custody of my son. The house. The dog. And she is paying me child support. So I have that going for me. Which is nice. Came home to do laundry in the middle of the day. Student schedule. Found a guy in his boxers in my kitchen. Wasn't surprised. But still hurt. I moved out and got remarried to someone who gives a damn. She's still looking for Mr. Right. That guy is still around from time to time from what my kids say. She did shave her head and start day drinking afterwards. Pretty sure she got the short end of the situation. Pretty sure she got the short end of the situation. No bro. She created the situation. That's called a consequence. After ignoring comments from friends and family. Finally confronted her and she admitted it. Forgave her the first 2 times. Divorced after the 3rd. I'm a slow learner. Currently remarried and happy. Together for 10 years, married too. I flew home for a week to visit family and came back to him saying he realized he didn't miss me and wants to move out. No prior fighting. No issues. No signs at all. He initially said he didn't know what he wanted in his life but he needs space to figure things out and that once he figures it out he'll move back home. Found him texting a married co-worker while packing and I knew right there. The two of them had been chatting for months apparently as friends. He moved out. She left her husband and kids 2 months later and I find out she was pregnant. I filed for divorce and moved far away. I don't know if they are together still or married or what the situation is. Just hurts to be betrayed so callously. She was in another room and left her phone beside me and I saw an incoming text from an odd, abbreviated name. Read the conversation and found out that she not only loved him but also gave him thousands of dollars and was sending nude photos of herself to him. I immediately confronted her about it. We were divorced within a year. Not married. But engaged at the time. A few months before our wedding she was spending more and more with a co-worker. Staying out until 2 AM. And lying where she was. She called off the wedding and confessed that she cheated on me with this guy. But I was willing to try to save the relationship. A week later, on the night that was supposed to be her bachelorette party, she was going to go out with some girlfriends and invited him along too, and lied to me about that too. We broke up the next day. He was acting weird, taking his cell phone with him everywhere. Red flag for me. I had tried to be the cool wife who was never jealous. Never questioned him. But this made me so suspicious. One day, he left his phone by me on the couch for a second and a text popped up from someone who was just initials and said we really shouldn't be doing this. So then I knew. We divorced 6 years ago and I will never get married again. I take my phone with me because I like to read it while I poop. We divorced 6 years ago and I will never get married again. This is what he wants. Move on and have a better life. That's the best revenge. I googled his Skype name. Apparently he used it as a handle on all the websites he was on. Like AF and a cam site. I also caught him Skyping with his GF early one Sunday morning. I was already planning on leaving. So by this point, didn't really care. We had had a dead bedroom, he was the LL, for 5+ years. And I was just thankful the marriage was ending. Came home from her work Christmas party at 3 AM smelling of Essex. I knew something was going on. But she didn't tell me until 6 months after. So yay. My wife fessed up. I wrote dude's wife that he cheated on her. Not in a mean way, but I couldn't stand knowing and not her. I felt like I was keeping the secret too. We've been engaged for a few years and were planning to get married this summer. We tried to have a baby, but I miscarried just before Christmas. Didn't realize that I had become quite depressed due to this. I'd hoped that after looking after her through lots of psych and personal issues that I would now get some support. But no. She felt too pressured and started a relationship with her straight married friend. I became suspicious. But I hoped that whatever it was it would pass. Unfortunately on Valentine's Day I caught them together at my home. The three of us had a long, tense discussion and I just gave up. It is fitting that two cheaters found each other. Now I'm trying to find a place to live as I can't afford to keep the house alone. She can. Hopefully things will stay civil throughout the process. But I really don't know how I will learn how to trust anyone again. No me but my mom. Dad cheated on mom when I was about 5. Mom found someone's underwear in the bed. About 20 years go by and she thought she was happily remarried, and then her second husband of the last 12 years gets mad one day and moves in next door to her best friend's house who he's been sleeping with. She's got bad taste in men. I have to say though, mom is doing great. She's keeping her chin up less than 3. Obviously both stories ended in divorce. Really? Really short version. iPad messages with her and her drug dealer. Pictures of her cheating. Messages on how they were going to get alimony. And steal my car. I have custody of my 7-year-old son. And her parents have to deal with her messed up life now. My parents divorced because of cheating. They both work irregular hours which didn't line up at all, so whilst my mom was working most of the day and me and my brother were at school, my father had all kinds of affairs. She eventually found out through small things like breakfast dishes being at the exact same place as where she left them, leading her to conclude that he was out all day, etc. Was walking through Best Buy one day, and out of nowhere had this really powerful feeling that she was being unfaithful. I swear I have no idea where it came from. So I called here then and there and straight up asked. She admitted to it. So I went home, packed my left her the house, and haven't seen her since. Walked into my best friend's house because I cleaned it, free for her as she had a lot on her plate. My husband was one of the things on her plate and in her bed. Edit. I walked out. When he came home, I asked him where he was. He lied. A week later I left after stuffing dog crap in every vent I could find in his brand new truck. It was a hot week. He took the car that whole week as he was traveling. Needless to say, he had to get rid of the truck. Pity. I was in bed asleep at 5 AM and he got up to take the dogs out. Shortly thereafter I received a text message intended for the other woman. It all came out then. That morning, he told me he wanted a divorce. I was destroyed. I was suicidal. For 6 months I migrated between the couch and the bed, wearing my nightgown. I quit cleaning the house. Quit eating. All I could think about was how to heal this terrible pain inside me. Suicide seemed the only way. It's now been a year since that day. I'm on 4 different antidepressants. I'm functional but still terribly sad about the loss of my marriage. I still cry every day. This is the worst thing anyone ever did to me. I fit this bill. Technically, my ex-fiancée cheated on me. But now I'm married to a different girl. So I'm married but was cheated on. I found out by my sister showing me my ex's nudes my ex was sending to the miscellaneous guys she was banging, whom happened to be friends with my sister. They did not know about me. That engagement ended quickly. What I did? Year of alcoholism, depression, and eventually a failed suicide attempt followed by a year of getting help. One of my very good friends is going through that now. He had a suspicion but never dug. Never acted on it. Then one day his wife came home crying. Says she doesn't want to be married anymore. That she doesn't think she is supposed to be a married woman. Well, he tried to work it out but she wasn't having it. He spent a week in bed basically sleeping. He took sleeping meds to go back to sleep when he couldn't. Basically only drank water and ate canned soup. After a week he met with his wife to work out the divorce. He gave her whatever she wanted but in the end he still felt like he screwed her. He is currently sleeping at a friend's parents' house. They are disabled and he is able to help them out some with things. Sucks. If you are going through something like this, try and reach out to people. Don't let your pride push people away when you are most at need. She called me while I was working out of state. Started a fight intentionally. Then told me she was cheating and was moving out. I surprised her by leaving work and coming home immediately. Got there in the middle of the night and threw the rest of her out on the curb. Then changed the alarm code so she couldn't get back in without my consent or the police showing up. My husband started a new job. A few months in he started acting different. I didn't think anything of it. He started hanging out with work friends after work. Cool. I wanted him to have more of a social life. It got to the point that he was constantly texting co-workers and going out about once a week. In my not proudest moment I looked at his Facebook messaging. I had never violated his privacy like that before and sometimes wish I hadn't. He had been seeing a co-worker for months. I was pregnant. It was giant mess. We've mostly got everything worked out. But it still hurts even though it's been, what, 3 years now? She told me. I thought everything was fine. After a lot of digging. She didn't exactly tell me everything though. We're getting a divorce. I was accused of emotionally cheating on and off for the better part of the last 2 years of the 6-year relationship. Sex was very limited. Despite romantic efforts. I was told that saying hello can be emotionally cheating. So I did my best to really just kinda keep to myself regarding women at work and in public places to limit damage. Come to find out the last 6 months. She was going to a man's house while she was out with her friends falling in love. And eventually having a sexual affair. After separating they were married within a year. Lesson. People really do project oftentimes their greatest transgressions. But be reasonable in your assumptions. And don't let a person change your behaviors. And how you treat everyday people. Being polite and cordial are not things your significant other should want to change. It came in the form of an accusatory email from the GF of the other guy to my work email. My then wife and I and this other dude all worked together in a large company. Naturally tried to work it out since she denied it all and since it was an accusation I believed her. But once a third party sends you an email like that it just eats away at you. Eventually I filed for divorce, left our house to her and our daughters. My life went to and attempted suicide. Fortunately the oleander made me outrageously sick. Started seeing a shrink to talk it out and landed on being depressed and feeling like a failure of both man and father. Took about 2 years of being alone and trying to rebuild my life. It took time and it was the hardest and lowest I'd ever been. Now in an engaged W, a beautiful woman, and actually grew to be civil W, the ex-wife. Married for 5 years. I was on a 12-month tour, army, and had mid-tour leave. I only had about 7-8 days. The first night I was back she was in the shower and I hopped on the computer. It was in sleep mode and when the screen popped up it was a Facebook inbox full of conversations from guys I had never known. I only had to see the first one to know and see evidence. Needless to say, I spent the rest of those days moving mine to a storage unit before returning to my tour. She's a mess. It's quite sad. I got full custody of our daughter and have been a single parent since. Worked out well for me and the kid at least. I felt something wasn't right. Little things. Details about our daily lives weren't quite right. She started to put more effort into her appearance. Encouraged me to work more, which she had never done before, and she started to take her phone with her no matter where she went. She wasn't very tech savvy, so I was the one who set up the iPhones and iTunes, so it was very easy for me to use Find My iPhone. I would check up on her and sure enough she wasn't where she said she'd be, so one day I packed the kids in the car and went to where her phone said she was, and sure enough she was in a car park in the back of a car with my trainee from work. Note to self. Don't get married. No. Didn't you read any of these? About 90% are of the got remarried and couldn't be happier variety. So the trick is, first marry somebody you don't like. Then get divorced as quickly as possible. And then you'll be happy. Simple. Checked his phone on the kitchen table to see the time. Had a message that said, "Meet me at the office. Bring condoms." Many years ago, I was out with my ex and her friends at a restaurant. I had just given her my older cell phone because I had replaced mine. When she got up to go to the restroom I instinctively picked up the phone which was on the table. It was very casual. And in the middle of a conversation, I really didn't think twice about it. On the screen were some very flirtatious notes between her and an unidentified number. I knew immediately something was wrong despite the fact that this was totally unexpected and, I thought, out of character. Turns out she had been growing closer to her colleague. To my knowledge it was not physical. But who knows, they are together now. Ultimately it was for the better. I'm very happily married now to someone who is a better partner for me. Hopefully she's happy as well.